In my experience as a coach, one area that I think that men often miss the mark is that they are searching for easy around every corner. We live in a world where we get everything at our fingertips. And this idea of being okay with adversity is more rare than ever. Working a 9 to 5 is hard, but being an entrepreneur is hard, right? Being out of shape and overweight is hard. Being in shape is hard, right? Having a great marriage is hard, takes a lot of work. Divorce is also hard. The reality is here, Oscar, is that every single thing is difficult. And as men, we're built for adversity. And so it is our responsibility as men, husbands, and fathers to not back away from that adversity, but to lean in because we, of all people in our families, we're the ones that are designed to handle the weight.
Welcome to the Daughter Podcast, where fathers become everyday heroes in their daughters' lives. Grow, evolve, and lead with love. Here's your host, Oscar Pena.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daughter Podcast. Oscar here, your fellow growing girl dad. Today with a guest that I've been trying to get on the show for a while, but we have had this thing called life that gets a vote. But today I'm excited to have Mitch Osmond on the show. So Mitch, man, how are you today? Thank you for being with us.
Dude, Oscar, I would just want to say thank you for having me on the show, man. I'm looking forward to having this conversation. I would echo the same, man. I've been looking forward to just chatting with you and your listeners today. I know it's going to be a powerful conversation. I'm doing well, and I'm ramped up and ready to go, bro.
Doing well, busy, and oh, by the way, expecting another child, right? So congratulations on that.
Thank you. We're excited.
Before we get started on where we're going today, give the listeners and the viewers a little bit about Mitch, a little bit about your background, what you're doing nowadays, and really how you got to be where you're at.
That's a great place to start. So what do I do today? Well, I'm a high performance coach. So I coach career-driven men how to reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness without sacrificing their career success. So a lot of the men that I work with are, like, when I say career-driven, I mean they've seen success professionally. They're dominating at work but feeling disconnected at home. So when I say home, health, and happiness, home is really the key relationships, your relationship with your wife, your relationship with your kids. When I say health, I'm talking about your nutrition, your exercise, all that stuff. And then when I talk about happiness, we talk about emotional intelligence. We talk about our mindset, the limiting self-beliefs, the self-sabotage, how to kick bad habits, how to form great ones. So really, those are the three markers for me that I've seen that when men see success in those areas, every other part of their lives tend to get elevated as well. So that's what I do today. I also am the founder of the Dad Nation podcast, and that's a top 5% show globally. And that's what we talk about, man. All the things that would challenge you as a man, husband, and father in 2026. I bring on, tons of industry experts on different topics, all the way from business to fatherhood, finances, marriage, anything else in between, man. So it's a ton of fun. That's what I do today. And so how did I get into this? Well, I mean, it's a bit of a long story, but let me give you the cliff notes here. Really, my story begins, man. I really had two turning points. Okay, a lot of people ask me that. What was that? What was the turning point for you? What was that catalytic moment? Well, for me, the first one was, I want you to picture for a moment, me and my wife were sitting on the couch in our living room, and we were married for about 3 years, and we had a big fight. So the first one was a fight. The second point was a funeral. The fight started out about me being not present or something like that, and then I went into money struggles and a bunch of different other things. And it really hit a low point when I was talking to her because I wanted to have kids. And I had come from dysfunction and a ton of which I'll talk about a little bit later. And she looked at me. She was like, "Are you kidding me? I would never bring a child into this marriage. That wouldn't be fair to them." I had this moment of like, what? Like total shell shock. I thought things were okay.
Right.
And she began to express her discontentment. Man, we were so close to divorce. And I'll tell you, man, it was a huge fight. And then the next week after that, each day when I came home, I didn't know if that was going to be the day that I walked home and found the ring on the counter with the note. It was a brutal time in my life. Now, to give you some background, I was let go of a leadership position. I'd always been in senior leadership positions.
Okay.
And us as men, our identity is wrapped around what we do, right? And so when I got let go, man, my life spiraled. I found myself 60 pounds overweight. We were
Mhm.
100 grand in debt. I was medicating daily with alcohol and drugs, trying to cope with the life that I had created.
Right.
And now I was dangerously close to divorce and losing my wife. So I'm going through this. Then the next turning point happened 7 days later. Okay, I get invited to sing at the funeral of this very wealthy man. He was a philanthropist. And as I was strapping on my guitar, getting ready to sing the last song, I overheard the minister ask the crowd in the room. There's about 2,000 people. It was a huge memorial service. After sharing all the things that this man had done, he looked at the crowd and he said, "Are you living a life worthy of imitation? If you were to die today, would you be proud of the legacy that you left?"
Wow.
And Oscar, for me at that point, I could barely choke at the lyrics to the last song because
Yeah.
all I could think, as I'm looking at the casket of this other man, I'm faced with the legacy that I'm going to leave. And all I could think was, man, if this were my funeral today,
Yeah.
no one in this room would be saying, I want a marriage like he had. I want to imitate his, the way he loved his kids, the finances he had, his health. No one would have said that. They would, at that point, they would have said, man, he had a hard life, and it ended before he had a chance to turn it around. It was sad, man. So I went home that day determined to die to the man that I knew that I was in order to become the man that I knew I needed to be for my wife and then for hopefully my future children one day. And so long story short, I surrounded myself with a community of men, mentors of mine, that my ceiling was their floor, okay? These guys were living where I wanted to go. And within about 18 months, a year and a half, we paid off the 100 grand of debt, completely restored our marriage. I lost the 60
Wow.
pounds, packed on muscle, and then was clean of distractions and substances. Complete 180, dude. But because I was always in these public positions, people around me started asking questions. Man, what did you do? How did you do that? So I just started helping friends of mine for years, man. I would be building workout plans. I'd be building budget sheets for them to get out of debt. I'd be helping my buddies get closer to the wives until one of my mentors said to me, hey, man, if you really want to have an impact, you need to start a podcast and share your story with the world. So 2 years ago, I launched the Dad Nation podcast. Within 6 months, we had listeners all around the world, and that's when I got questions about coaching. And I had men listening and said, would you help me with what I'm going through? And I'm a big fan of Ed Milet. I heard this on his podcast a while ago. He said, you are the most qualified to help the person you used to be.
Yeah.
And so what I started to do, man, I hired a bunch of coaches, and I created my coaching practice. And then within another 6 months, I'd scale that to a 6-figure coaching practice, helping men that I used to be, helping them restore their marriages, lose the weight, man, get connected with their kids on a whole different level, show up powerfully at home, and win at home as much as they did at work. So that's my story, man. That's how I got here.
That's incredible, man. And powerful what you're doing for other men, because you're absolutely right. You are the most qualified to help the person that you were, right? One of the reasons this show started is one of the major reasons is almost similarly looking at the person that I was as a father to my daughter to the person that I am now. I wish I could go back to that dude and hit him upside the head and get him to realize a couple of things. So absolutely, man. The work that you're doing, though, similar to I think how I got to it is the proverbial knock to the head. Like at some point, something hits you that says either you change or something will change you. And normally that something will make it a negative thing, right? Like you can put in addiction or substance. I mean, you can put substance in there, you can put in other stuff. But if you don't choose to change, something will change, because change is the only inevitable thing other than whatever, death and taxes, whatever they say, right? And when you went back from that funeral, what was the conversation like? Was there a conversation, or was it like, I'm internalizing and I'm going to get to work?
With my wife?
Yep.
Please don't leave. No, here's the thing, man. I made promises that I couldn't keep.
Mm,
I didn't know how to be a good man. My dad was an alcoholic. I came from drugs, abuse, trauma, crime. I mean, it was littered all throughout my childhood. I
mm-hmm.
had no idea how to love and cherish a woman. Right? I made a lot of mistakes. I wrote checks I couldn't cash. My wife was duped. I made a lot of promises at the altar.
Mm,
And then when we got married, it was like, psych, you know. And when
wow.
my career crashed, my identity crashed with it,
Right.
which is what happens to so many men.
Yeah.
And so it was the boy cried wolf, man. I had said I'll change, and never changed, and never changed, and never changed. She lost confidence in the relationship. She lost confidence in me. She lost confidence in my leadership. I mean, so when I came home, I said, I'm going to change. I'm going to be different. She's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll believe
Right.
it when I see it. So what I said was, hey, give me 6 months. Give me 6 months. And if you don't see a change in me, you can leave. You know,
Right.
obviously you can leave now, but honestly, I won't come running after you.
Yeah.
I'll
Right.
accept it. But if within 6 months you see a change in me, will you be willing to commit for the long haul? I promise I'll turn it around. So
Yeah.
she graciously said yes, and we continued on the journey, and it was not smooth.
Right.
I battled demons. But man, that was 10 years ago, and it's just been an incredible journey since.
Yeah. I think the answer to this is clear, but in your words, like what amount of accountability needed to happen at that moment of action? So the decision was made, but then action starts, right? Like there's so many things to be accountable for yourself. And that's something that I work on as much as possible, right? Like
Yeah.
owning everything in my world so
Mhm.
that I can be accountable for it, so that I can adjust for it.
Mhm.
What did that look like for you
Yeah.
in the action phase?
Yeah, man. Well, here's the thing. I had lots of great intentions. I mean, that's the thing with man is we always have great intentions, but
Yeah.
intention without action means nothing. They're just broken promises.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, I need to get men around me that are going to hold me accountable
Mm.
because I got all kinds of ideas, but if I'm not accountable to anybody, nothing's going to happen. Otherwise, it's Einstein's definition of success, trying
Yeah.
to, doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right?
Mhm.
And so what I did was I surrounded myself with men, like I was saying in the beginning. Now,
Mhm.
what I did was I looked at the areas of my life where I needed help physically, in my marriage,
Mhm.
spiritually, financially, a bunch of different ways. And honestly, man, it was literally this simple. I looked at my life, my social circle, and I said, who's the most jacked dude I know? Who's got the best marriage? Who's got the most money? Right? Who's got the best relationship with God? Because I'm a person of faith.
Right.
And I looked at those 5 men, and I reached out to them, and I said, hey, you're obviously doing something right in this area of your life. I got a
Mhm.
lot of respect for you. Would you be willing to show me what you did, how you did it? I'll buy you a beer. I'll buy you a coffee once a
Right.
month. Just would you be willing to share that with me? And these men happily did so. This was so powerful that I actually created a framework around this that I encourage all my one-to-one clients to have, and it's called the Iron Five. So
Okay.
every man has their 5 men that are surrounding them. And then I created my own coaching community of men that
Right.
we rally around one another. But for me, the big thing was accountability.
Mm.
That made the big difference. Because that's the thing, man. We get stuck in cycles. We get stuck in traps, and we relive the same year over and over and
Yeah.
over again. And so many of us don't have the courage to step out and ask for support, ask for mentorship, ask for accountability. And in my experience with men, number one, that's why we end up on calls in the first place, is because they've never had accountability, they've
Mm.
never had mentorship. And then when they become to get into the programs, that's the one thing that causes them to stay on track, right? Because you got to think, you're rewiring. It's called neuroplasticity. You're rewiring the way you think, the kinds of decisions you make, like
Right.
everything, and you have to have support in that. Otherwise, you're just going to self-sabotage. I
Yeah.
did it for years, right? And it does not change until you're ready to take that step. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. You can only lead a horse to water, right?
Exactly.
And then from there, what are you gonna do? Drown it? Try to make it drink? It just doesn't work.
Nope.
One thing I love about that is that the more and more that I've been able to grow, and particularly in conversations on the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more and more I learn that accountability is, how do I put this? Is a masculinity trait, or maybe I should say, is a trait that good masculine men have, is what
Mm-hmm.
I should say, right? That's not to say that women don't have accountability. Obviously, humans need accountability, whether it's self and or that group of people. But when I'm looking at this conversation now and I'm thinking about what you're saying and I'm thinking of me, because every time that I get on an episode, I try to reflect on me first. And now it kind of makes sense. I'm trying to reach the guy that I was before. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
think of that. Didn't put it in that concept. But it came to a point where I realized I was not being accountable to myself for the things I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in your work, you talk a lot about quiet masculinity, the things we have to get done as men to be better men,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the accountability part just kind of screams out to me. In what you're saying is not only do you have to be accountable, but finding ways to continue to be accountable, finding the men around you, the community around you that will keep you accountable and give you something to strive for.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at this, I start thinking of younger Mitch. How long have you been married? I think we said
10 years.
10 years. That dude, right before marriage, like, what would you tell him
Mm.
right before marriage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say don't have so much ego that you think that you can do this alone,
Mm,
right? Don't be so arrogant to think that you have nothing to learn.
yeah.
Um, Understand that you are fundamentally wired differently than your spouse, and if you don't get along, doesn't mean she's broken. Doesn't mean you're broken.
Yeah.
It just means you need new tools, right?
Yeah.
So have the courage, have the humility to reach out and learn those tools, to learn those strategies. Because, bro, it took me way too long to learn that lesson, and I
Yeah.
risked losing everything, right? And like you said, that's all I do as well, man. Is I help the guy that I used to be, and
Mhm.
that's the beautiful thing about this journey is when you're working with mentors, they collapse the amount of time
Mhm.
it takes to learn something, and it's like, well, yeah, if I had my time back, I would have
Yeah.
hired a coach on day one, you know, because I would have learned a decade of lessons in probably 6 months,
Yep.
and I would have felt a lot less pain, right?
Yep.
So that's probably what I'd say to my younger self.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that you had to go through that process, but it obviously has you sitting where you are now. And to dismiss that process, I think would be weird, right? Because it's made you the person that you are. And I think the saying is like you have to make mistakes in order to create wisdom towards the
Hmm.
end. But the wisdom only comes when you're ready to actually learn from all those things.
Yeah, man, that's the crazy thing about challenge and adversity. Oscar, I can remember writing in my journal when I was, a year into marriage, and I still have the journal. I would write things like, "Did I marry the wrong woman?
Mm.
Where did I go wrong? What did I do to deserve this life?"
Oh man.
And because I'm a person of faith, the questions were always going to God. Why did
Yeah.
you let me do this? I thought you had a plan for my life.
Right.
Bro, I was angry. But I had no support, right? But here's the crazy thing. That thing that at one point felt like a curse
Hmm.
has become the one thing that has helped me not just change my life, but help thousands of men transform their lives. If it
Hmm.
were not for that, and even going back even further from that, if it were not for my dysfunctional upbringing, my alcoholic father, the abuse in my home, perhaps I wouldn't be here today. Maybe I'd be some entitled little jerk who had
Right.
everything handed to him.
Right.
But I had to face all that stuff so I could learn that hard lesson. so that I could then in turn use it, turn that trash into treasure and help so many other men. And so because of that, I'm thankful. I'm
Yeah.
thankful for every moment of it. Now, I wasn't in the moment, but I sure
Yeah.
am now,
Right.
right?
Well, and it takes so much strength, right? Let's just be real. Like it takes strength to be able to not only take the beating of whatever life has given you, but then to swallow that ego after the beating in order to learn from the beating to then get to where you are.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think I don't think the word is dismissed, but I think it just doesn't get caught enough is strength. And for us, I want to be a stronger, more mindful, more present father. What does strong mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you the first thing that pops in my head is I can deadlift some weights. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You're strong. I can pick up my kids. I can pick up my wife if I needed. I'm a protector that way. One thing I've learned is that strength is so much more than that. And you are essentially a prime example of that. You're looking at everything that you have been able to go through and then looking at the things that you've been able to accomplish. All of that took strength. And in your work, how do you discuss strength with men? Because I know you're not just being like, all right, just go lift some weights. You're strong. Let's move on. Right? Because I've listened to your work. It's not just that. What is it that strength looks like to you and to the men you're working with?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. And it's so much larger than physical strength. Physically, sorry, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's relational strength. I would say resilience for me is a word that I would categorize, with strength. Because you can be strong in some areas, weak in others. You
Right?
can be, I've seen a lot of weak bodybuilders, meaning they got lots of muscles, but
Yeah.
they don't know how to hold it down without losing their mind on their kids. They're weak
Right.
emotionally, right? Um, and so the big thing that I talk a lot about is, can you get back up? Will you get back up when it gets hard? The question is not, are you going to get knocked down? Oh, hell yeah, you're going to
Yeah.
get knocked down, right? Who was it said that, Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face,
That's right. Absolutely.
right? We all got plans. We all got intentions. But what do you do when you get knocked down? And the strongest men get back up no matter what.
Mhm.
They have a big blow up with their wife. They don't peace out and take the easy way. They go back in and they work it out. They snap at their kids. They don't ignore them and not apologize. They pursue their children and exercise humility. Um, the strongest men I know, they might miss a day with their diet or their exercise, but you better believe they're not going to miss two. They get back on the horse. And for me, I think that this idea of resilience paired with consistency is the two most valuable assets you can have as a man. And that's where I see such a lack in so many men today is they may be resilient for a month, 2 months, but then they don't necessarily be consistent in that. Or they might be consistent, but not necessarily resilient, meaning
Right.
they're consistent in the easy stuff, but when they get knocked over, that's it. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
consistent with video gaming. They're consistent with Netflix. They're consistent with scrolling TikTok, but not in anything that means anything, you know?
Right.
And so it's really interesting, man, because there's a part of the brain structure. It's just totally lost on me, the name of it. And I was literally on a podcast last week talking about this.
Yeah.
So the actual technical name of the brain structure, I'll remember and let you know. But
Mhm.
what it is they've discovered that when people face difficult things, uncomfortable things that they do not want to do, that part of the brain structure grows, right? So people who have seen adversity, people who have overcome challenges, for example, Olympic athletes, people who have overcome a lot of trauma,
Mhm.
this part of the brain grows. Now, what the crazy thing is when you stop doing the things, stop challenging yourself with things that make you uncomfortable,
Mhm.
that part of the brain structure actually begins to shrink. And in situations where they've done brain scans on people who were, say, obese,
Mhm.
or who really don't maybe push themselves in exercise, or they live a relatively comfortable life,
Right.
that part of the brain structure is so small. And so what neurologists have come up with, and these, I mean, this is just the last maybe 10 years of neurology, is
Yeah.
what they're understanding now is they're closely tying your willpower to, like, you want to grow your willpower. Well, we've seen your brain actually physically grows
Mhm.
when you engage in doing difficult things
Right.
that are uncomfortable. So the key to growing your willpower is to continue doing things that make you uncomfortable, continue to face adversity. And so when I say are you a strong man,
Mhm.
really what I'm asking you is, are you resilient? Will you get back up? And will you consistently get back up? And in
Right.
my experiences, those men, those husbands, those fathers that come hell or high water, I know beyond a shadow of a
Yeah.
doubt that they're going to get back up. Those are the men that do great things in life. The men who
Mhm.
lay down and stay there, or make excuses why they can't get back up, and then they start blaming their wives while they're still laying down, or blaming their
Mhm.
kids, or blaming their dad, or blaming their who. Those are the men that really don't amount to much. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hippocampus, I think is what you were talking about.
Anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Oh,
That's
Samsonite.
that's what it was. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex. You could Google it.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it's a small part of the brain that
Yeah.
continues to grow as you face adversity.
You're so spot on. And it seems more and more apt in this current day and age where everything is relatively easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shoot, man, you didn't have to leave your house to go get food.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about fast food. Like groceries will show up at your front door.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes intentionality to be able to put yourself in hard situations, to be able to grow that part of the brain, to be able to continue to be better, and to be able to teach that to your children, not by words, but by action. And that's the thing, is that being strong means so much, but ultimately it's what are you teaching your children about what strong looks like? And it's that
Mm-hmm.
get up, it's the hard thing, it's the day in, day out stuff, it's the
Mm-hmm.
little stuff that ultimately shows the most lessons.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the thing, Oscar. You can't just tell your kids to be strong and they're going to be strong,
Yeah.
right? Kids do not do. They're not always going to do what you say, but you
Yeah.
better believe they're going to do what you do,
Oh,
right?
they're watching.
Yeah, and you know this, but I say this all the time, man. Yeah, I got a lot of clients who they have daughters, and
Mm.
so I'll usually say to them, listen, statistically, we know it's true that your daughter will grow up to crave the attention and affection of a man just like you. She will grow up and be drawn to the kind of marriage that you have because that's the familiar,
Mhm.
right? I see this in clients all the time. I see this in my life. My sister grew up, married an alcoholic. Why?
Ugh.
Dad was an
Yeah.
alcoholic. She divorced him. Guess who else she married? Another alcoholic. That's
Mhm.
just the way it is, right? And so if you want your daughter to bring a great man home one day,
Mhm.
you have to model that greatness so that she can recognize it when she sees it in other men.
Right.
And if you have a son, we know statistically it's true, there's a high probability that he will grow up to become the man that you are today.
Right.
And so when we have conversations about leveling up and facing difficult things and facing adversity, or even when I get on calls with guys who maybe want to join my program,
Mhm.
a lot of the conversation is around like, hey man, if you don't have the courage to do this for you, do it for your children,
Right.
because that's the best way to set them up for success, is to let them watch. Let them
Right.
watch you transform your life. And that is going to be the thing that moves the needle for them.
Yeah.
Not you sitting on the couch lecturing them, telling them to go to the gym while you're eating M&Ms and watching Netflix. That's not how it
Right.
works, right?
No, it really is. I mean, it's that simple. And the word or the phrase is it's simple, not easy.
Exactly.
Right. But it is that simple. It's what they're looking at is what they're going to ultimately think is the norm.
Mm-hmm.
what I really like about what you're doing too is just the work with men in their relationship with their wives. I think it's so important. I've been married for over 22 years now,
Wow.
and it's not been a cakewalk, to say the least, right? But her and I, my wife and I, we kind of grew up together because we got married young,
Mm.
but we were with each other only for 8.5 years. And so, but that was before the kids got to us. And man, it is a, it is work.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's so easy to check out. And this is something that you had mentioned. I don't know if it was your podcast episode or it was a video, but you were talking about the checkout mode, like where we can so easily check out and go into autopilot,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have been on autopilot in my marriage. I can tell you that, where it's just like that. Well, this is what we do. This is another day. And man, I don't know how close we ever got to a divorce because I don't think it ever came up, but I don't never know, right? Like she might know and I may not know. But when we're looking at men in the relationship and having the strength to do the hard thing in the relationship, that's something you talk a lot about, is how to, I mean, obviously through your experience, how to push through that to make sure that you're not on autopilot. Because
Mm-hmm.
once you get on autopilot, that creates those bad habits that also get on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ball starts rolling downhill. Obviously, I'm a father of daughters, so I want to show that. But man, it is so easy to go on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maneuver that with men that are reaching out to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks for asking, Oscar. And well, let me share some stats with you that will really set the tone for this conversation. We know in the U.S. today that 7 out of every 10 divorces are initiated by women.
Right.
But here's the crazy thing: is when you dig into the stats, in situations where the wife is a high earner or has a high education, that number actually jumps to 90%. So in many situations, 9 out of 10 marriages end in divorce, and 9 out of 10 times the divorce happens, it is initiated by the women. Now, another crazy thing is 80% of the time, the main reason cited for divorce is not what everyone thinks it is. It's not cheating, it's not abuse, not money, not sex, not kids. It is emotional disconnection. And so let's look at this, for example, for a moment. We have, some situations where it's 70%, some situations up to 90% of marriages, the divorce is initiated by women. The main reason is emotional disconnection, meaning they don't feel like a priority. They don't feel understood. They feel like they married a robot, right? And so the bulk of my work, when I work with men in their marriages, is helping them understand their own emotions, to communicate those emotions, but also how to hold space for their wives' emotions and to increase their emotional intelligence so that their wife can feel seen, to feel heard, to feel secure, right? Because when you can meet your wife's emotional needs, bro, your marriage will be set on fire in the best way possible.
Right.
And so that's where we do a lot of the groundwork. And you'll notice on Instagram, that's what a lot of my posts are about. When I say being present, that's what I'm talking about. When she's talking to you about her day, a lot of times when you come home, your wife might talk about she had a hard day with the kids, or she might have got into an argument with her sister, or fill in the blank with whatever it is. Now, a lot of mistakes men make is they come home, and rightfully so. Masculine men especially are driven by fixing things, strategy, by building, by being on purpose, mission, all those things. And we get paid well to do it. We got 8, 10, 12 hours a day strategizing, fixing, solving. We come home, what's the first thing we do when our wife starts talking about a hard day? Well, we try and shove a strategy down her throat, right? And we start treating her like an employee or a staff member or a colleague, where she's like, well, I don't want you to fix it. But then what happens? Well, we get defensive. What do you mean? I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
you said you wanted help. And then you start feeling disrespected because
Yeah.
you had a long day too. You finally muster up the energy to like engage in a conversation with her, and she shuts you down. Like she didn't want to hear your advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is here, Oscar, I promise I'm going to get to your point. But a woman's three basic needs are to feel seen, to
Yep.
feel heard, and to feel secure. But a lot of that, to meet those three needs, is a lot about emotions, right? A man's two greatest needs are to feel respected and to feel competent. You want to crush a man? Disrespect him. Make him feel incompetent in his career or as a husband, right? And that's what happens in a situation like what I just explained,
Mm-hmm.
where a wife, a man finally tries to make that connection,
Right.
and then she starts getting upset, and then he begins to feel incompetent.
Right.
She's not feeling seen or heard. And so what happens then is we start the drift, and women start to lean into other areas where they get those needs to be loved and be, appreciated and get the affection. So she leans into the children. Men turn into work because we, as society, we're valued by what we do. But then also, where do we get respect? Work. Where do we feel competent? Work.
Right.
And so we start to spiral in different directions, and we start to live parallel lives. And we start to, like, this is what happens, what I call, we start feeling like roommates sharing rings, right? And so the biggest thing, like, if I could talk to every single man in the world and say one thing, it would be that. And here is a quick fix. So for you to have that conversation with your wife and to say, hey, honey, what does it look like for me to make you feel more seen? What does it look like to make you feel more heard? What does it look like to make you feel more secure? And then for her to say, honey, what does it look like to make you feel more competent? What does it look like to make you feel more respected? Right? And if you can meet her needs to feel seen, heard, secure, and she can meet your needs to feel respected and competent, bro, your marriage will drastically improve. But this is what happens, right? Or maybe in a situation where you come home from work or whatever, and she's talking to you, maybe you don't fix it. The other thing a guy might do is scroll on his phone or watch the sport or watch the game on TV, or he's not fully listening. It's like she married a robot. My wife said that to me. She was like, you're a robot. Like, I'm not even comfortable talking to you about my emotions because you don't have any. And every time I
Start
talk
checking
to
out.
you, exactly. Every time I talk to you, it makes me feel like I'm super emotional and like I'm crazy for thinking this. Right. And so, but understand we're wired on a fundamentally different level. And so if you can ask your wife that, and if we have more time, we could break down that seen, heard, secure model, but that would be a huge starting point. And I guarantee you, if you ask her those three questions, she's going to have answers for all three.
Right.
Because it might feel strange for you to use that language because it feels like unfamiliar in your mouth, because men, we're not used to that kind of language, but it feels natural for her. And she probably thinks about this every single day. And so she's gonna tell you. So approach her with humility and have that conversation. And don't be afraid to ask her. Tell her about your need to feel competent, right? So for example, when I was talking to my wife, I said, to her, I was like, what the most encouraging thing you can do for me is not say I love you. It's actually to say, I believe in you. Or you're such a great dad. Or man, you're such a powerful leader. I can live on that for months, bro.
Right. Yeah.
And this is a common misconception that women have, is because they think, well, my husband needs to be more loved. He needs to feel, I need to tell him I love him more. No, he doesn't. I've asked a room of, a few hundred men, raise your hand if you would rather hear, I love you or I respect you.
Right.
99% of the room is going to raise their hand that they would rather hear, I respect you than I love you.
Yeah.
And so if a man can communicate that to his wife, and she can also then start thinking about how to come alongside him and respect him and make him feel competent, man, he will bend over backwards, to make her feel seen, heard, and safe. But that's what happens, dude. So many guys feel disrespected and they feel incompetent, and then and not to mention society and the noise in media and the feminist movement that has said, there's no place for men in the world anymore. We don't need you. So we're already confused,
Yeah.
right? So anyways, I'm ranting, but that would be an answer for you.
Yeah.
The question
No,
you
it's
asked 10 minutes ago.
no, but it's a very good point, and it even translates. And I'm just talking on my experience, right? Those words, that intent also translates to my daughters.
Yes.
When I say those things to my daughters, they always have an answer,
Yes.
and sometimes it's the answers I don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there, uh, and to have that emotional strength, as you mentioned, to not only figure out my own emotions and how we use them in a day-to-day basis or situationally, but also to be able to carry my wife's emotions in a situation and then my daughter's emotions. It's I'm saying it because that's what I'm working towards, because it is not an easy task. It is not an easy task, but that's what we're working towards. But man, I can sit here and we can keep on pontificating a bunch on this stuff, but I know that we're running out of time. Please give us a little bit of information on the work that you're doing and where it could be found, for folks to be able to find you quickly.
Yeah. Thank you for asking, Oscar. Well, like you said, I've got the podcast, the Dad Nation podcast.
Right.
If you just Google the Dad Nation, you'll see my face plastered around everywhere. So you'll find your way to me. But if you're listening to this and this has resonated, and you're the kind of guy who you feel like you've been, like I said, dominating professionally, but feeling disconnected personally, maybe you come home and your marriage has grown boring, right? Maybe you feel like you're just, you've shifted from soulmates to roommates. Maybe you packed on a little bit extra weight, because you've been busy building your business, or you're a high level leader and time has been an issue, or you're feeling disconnected from your kids. You feel like you're operating at a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. You want to go to a 10 out of 10. Well, if any of that stuff is resonating with you as you're listening, I built a community specifically for men like that. It's called the High Performance Husband. And we have an accelerated program that's a 12-month program where you can join this community of men, and it's coaching, a year of mentorship with me. And there's a program called the High Performance Husband Training Program, which we hit every single pillar of what we talked about. How to reclaim your home, your health, and happiness. It's all about fitness, marriage, fatherhood, mindset, emotions, all that stuff. And we spend the year together, turn your life upside down. And if that's a step you want to take, then be happy to have that conversation. I'll give you the link to book a call. But also, there's something called the connection code, which I'd love to give your listeners today. It's a free gift.
Okay.
And this is just 50 questions to spark the fun and get the fire back. When we talk about this emotional connection piece, this is designed to help you engage your wife in conversation and help her unravel emotionally, help you feel connected to her. It's 50 questions. We cover everything from like your dreams to, just fun stuff, silly questions, like intimate questions. There's questions there to like turn up the heat, like all that stuff, bro. And so you can download that for free. I'll give you the link to it. It's just a PDF to take. And that's what I built for my one-to-one clients. And I had so many men being like, man, this has been a game changer, because
Awesome.
we plan a date and then we go out and then we're stumped. We don't know what questions to ask. So we go back to how was work?
Yes.
How was the kids? How'd you sleep? And then you're done, right? So it is incredible. I've had women come back and email me and be like, who was that man that took me out last night?
Yeah, that's cool, man.
I've never felt so connected. And so that's a hack, so free for your listeners today.
Yeah, we're going to have all those links for you guys in the show notes. Also, if you look at the pod roll underneath our show, you'll be able to see the Dad Nation podcast on there, as well as one of our podcasts that we listen to, because we do. Man, Mitch, I appreciate you so much for coming on here, giving us a little bit of your time. You got a lot going on, and you gave me a little bit of this time with us. So thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate your insight and your perspective on the things that a lot of us just need to keep working on. And can't thank you enough for being with us, brother.
Thank you, Oscar. If you don't mind, I'll just leave your listeners with this one quote
Absolutely.
that has really resonated with me, and it's this. Time is the only currency that we spend without knowing the remaining balance.
Yeah.
Meaning we have no idea how much time we have left. And we spend it all the time giving it away to frivolous things. I could have 60 years left, or I could have 60 minutes left. So when I thought about that for the first time, it changed how I thought about everything. So if you're listening to this today, really hold close to that quote, because you don't know how much time you have left. Stop giving it away to things that don't matter and start giving it to things that do matter, like your family, like your wife, like, your mission, your passions, all those different things. Let's not waste any more time. Double down, become the man and husband and father that your family needs. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Oscar. This has been an honor and a privilege, man.
Amen, brother. That beautifully said, and thank you for being with us. I appreciate you. For all of you out there, priceless information, priceless perspectives that we have, and just things that we need to ponder in order to get to where we need to be and be better every single day as men, as fathers, and husbands. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for your ears and your eyes. Remember to follow us and leave us a review. Appreciate y'all. See you all next time. Hey, if you enjoy the Daughter Podcast, you'll love what we've got waiting for you at daughterpodcast.com. As soon as you visit, you'll be prompted to join our new email newsletter, a resource packed with valuable insights, practical tips, and powerful perspectives straight from our podcast episodes and incredible guests. Don't miss out on the chance to join the community and strengthen your journey as a father. Visit daughterpodcast.com today and subscribe, because great dads never stop growing.